There was a point in my life where I was broke. I was worried about how I was going to make the next mortgage payment. I mean, don't tell me that that's not going to negatively impact the credibility, faith, and trust that your wife has in you. But if she knows, hey, you know what? Ryan's got it. Steve's got it. Joe's got it. We're going to be prudent and smart with our money, but I'm not worried about whether or not I spend $500 or $700 on grocery. All of that stuff is taken care of. Man, what a beautiful thing. I talk with dozens of men every single week who are trying to rebuild and rekindle a relationship with their spouse, or maybe they're trying to establish a new healthy relationship with a woman. Regardless of the situation they're in, there's one thing that I've found and determined over my own personal experience, some good and some bad, and after listening to thousands and thousands of men, that I believe is going to help you unlock access to her heart, to her mind, and to her body. And that is learning how to make her feel safe and secure. It's not always a simple thing to do. It's not always easy or convenient, but I'm telling you guys, if you really want to develop a deep, meaningful, and significant relationship with your wife or significant other, then you're going to have to learn how to keep her safe and secure. I think outside of every other factor that comes into a healthy relationship, if you can do that, it begins to be the foundation for everything else that you might enjoy, from joy and adventure and challenge and risk-taking and happiness and laughter together. But it all starts with this skeleton key of keeping her secure and safe. Now, before I get into the conversation today, I just want to mention my friends and the show sponsors over at Montana Knife Company. Guys, if you're looking for a knife, and not just any knife, an American-made knife from people in Montana doing good work, doing good things, and bringing back American manufacturing, then look no further than Montana Knife Company. In fact, if you're listening to this on YouTube, or watching this on YouTube, I should say, I just stepped away for a second to grab my brand new knife from Montana Knife Company, and it's called, I don't know if you can see that or if this camera will focus on this. This is called the War Goat. It's their very first tactical knife. They've done a lot of hunting knives and culinary knives, but this War Goat is their very first tactical knife. So if you're looking for a great knife, head over to montanaknifecompany.com and use the code Order of Men, all one word, at checkout to save some money when you do. All right, guys, let's talk about how to best make her feel safe and secure. I think she's looking for this more than anything else. And as I said earlier, it's the foundation for everything else that you want out of your relationship. I think this is really a three-pronged approach, and there might be some other things, so you guys can feel free to chime in and leave some comments. But number one is she is looking for emotional stability from you. Now, in previous relationships, I haven't always been the most emotionally stable, and part of that was exacerbated by my drinking. I've been pretty open about my battles with alcohol abuse, and I know that when I was drinking, obviously I was significantly more emotionally volatile. And so what would happen is if she or even my kids came to me for advice or simply to share about their day or talk with me or try to connect in some way, they never really knew who they were going to get. Were they going to get the cool, calm, and collected version of me? Or were they going to get the highly volatile, highly emotional, very reactive version of me? And that insecurity created doubt. And because there was doubt, it was less likely that her and my kids would come talk to me about relevant issues or even just talk with me just to connect. And then I would get mad that they would shut down and close down. What I've found is that if you can be more emotionally stable, then you're going to have a better likelihood of making her feel comfortable in communicating with you. This is a lot of that kind of conversation stems off a conversation I had several weeks ago about the concept of vulnerability. And I had mixed reviews on that and different definitions of the word vulnerability. And while I can certainly understand where people are coming from, I think it's very tempting for a guy to hear the concept of vulnerability and think that he just gets to regurgitate or spew all of his bullshit and baggage onto his significant other. And I think that's a problem. When you do it that way, you are not being emotionally intelligent. It's very unstable. It's very confusing for other people. And frankly, they're not there to solve your problems. So when somebody comes to you, you need to be the emotional rock. You need to be the beacon of stability. You need to be the one that she can rely on, she knows without a doubt that when she comes to you, you're not going to lash out. You're not going to let your emotions dictate your reactivity. You're going to respond in a very constructive and positive and healthy way. When you do that, and she's confident that you can do that, don't be surprised that the floodgates open and that she's more communicative with you because she's safe. She's comfortable to be able to do that. And the communication will obviously spill over into every aspect of your relationship with her. So I'm not saying that you should never be emotional. You can have feelings and you can express what your feelings are, but the way that you do it matters. And so it's very important, and this goes into something I've talked quite a bit about, that we as men have outlets. We're not going to let her be the outlet for our emotional burden and pain. Again, we can share in an honest and humble way, but we're not going to do it inappropriately. This is why it's important to have hobbies, physical training, other friends that you can talk with about some of these issues, or just a way to release some of the frustration, anger, sorrow, guilt, remorse, sadness that inevitably comes into your life. Do not let it spill over into your relationship in inappropriate and unhealthy ways, because you're going to start to notice that she's going to shut down physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, on the physical front, a lot of guys often want to be more intimate, more frequently with their spouse. Well, guys, I'm telling you, it's about the way that you're showing up. Yes, physically and mentally, but also emotionally. So if you feel yourself getting frustrated, or you feel yourself too heavily vested in what she might be talking with you about, learn to disengage, learn to take a step back, learn to find other outlets where you can vent and release some of that stuff so that you can always come to the table with her and she knows exactly what she's going to get. That's the emotional stability piece I'm talking about. Number 2, is she free from financial hardship? Now, you guys know that the finances, the money situation is, according to research and polls, one of the leading causes of friction and ultimately divorce in marriages. So if you are living paycheck to paycheck and maybe you're not as disciplined as you can be with your money, she's always going to be on edge. She's always going to be uncomfortable. If she has to check on every little expense with you because you're broke and you're not doing what you need to be doing, then that's going to create a lot of financial instability and insecurity and frustration in her life. And if she has those things in her life, then it doesn't allow her to bloom and to blossom and to open up and deeply engage in more relevant, important conversations like the future and raising kids together and going on adventures and what her own goals and interests and desires are for the next year or 5 years or 10 years, because she's so consumed with the money piece. And by the way, this is not exclusive to women. When we are strapped financially, then of course, we're going to be frustrated. We're not going to be able to focus on growth. We're in survival mode. And then what does that do? It leads to the first thing I talked about, emotional instability. You're irritable, you're agitated, you might feel guilty about the way that you're performing. So guys, it's imperative that we learn how to develop skills, marketable skills that we can charge money for, that we can go out into the market, present a solution, present our skill set, give that to individuals in exchange for compensation. Also, you need to make sure that you manage your money correctly. How many people are just living paycheck to paycheck and they're saying, hey, I'm going to wait till Friday to get that thing or to do that thing because that's when I get paid. Guys, that's not the position that we want to be in. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you or even thinking less of you because you might be in this boat. There was a point in my life where I was broke. I've said this before. I would walk in my backyard, this little path in my backyard, and I walked it so much that I wore a dirt track into the grass. And I paced and I walked that because I was worried about how I was going to make the next mortgage payment. I mean, don't tell me that that's not going to negatively impact the credibility, faith, and trust that your wife has in you. But if she knows, hey, you know what? Ryan's got it. Steve's got it. Joe's got it. We're going to be prudent and smart with our money, but I'm not worried about whether or not I spend $500 or $700 on groceries. I'm not worried about us being able to make the mortgage payment. I'm not worried about setting money aside for our kids' future and college tuition. All of that stuff is taken care of. Man, what a beautiful thing that you can then go in and start talking about more significant things like, what do you guys want to do in the future? What are your hopes and desires and dreams? What does retirement look like? Where would you like to go on vacation? And how can I treat you, my wife, and also my kids to the family that I promised, to the opportunities, I should say, that I promised that I would create for you? Guys, get your financial house in order. Number one, stop the bleeding. If you have unnecessary expenses, shut that down. Number two, start paying off the debt. Use Dave Ramsey's debt snowball. That is the most effective way, bar none, to pay off debt. I know there's other factors, but if you just look at the math says use the debt snowball. And then while you're doing that, invest in marketable skills. Go to your boss, ask for a promotion, look for a raise, look for other opportunities, start new businesses, do a side hustle. But get your financial house in order if you want to unlock access to, again, her heart, her mind, and her body. And guys, the last thing that I wanted to talk with you about this, and I think this goes without saying, but it's very important, and I'm going to give it a little bit more context. Is she free from physical harm? Now, I shouldn't have to say this, and I'm not going to really beat a dead horse, pun intended, when it comes to talking about being physically abusive or emotionally or even verbally abusive to her. Obviously, that's not going to foster any sort of faith in you as her man. So that just goes without saying, clearly, I hope. But also, does she feel protected when she's out in public with you? I heard Jocko one time say that sometimes a man has what another man wants, but a woman always has what another man wants. So she is, by default, a lot more vulnerable than a man. The likelihood of me getting into some sort of physical altercation or getting taken advantage of in public is significantly less than her getting into a physical altercation, sexually assaulted, or taken advantage of. She is a lot more vulnerable than I am, even just if you were to look at the differences between men and women. So when she's out in public, she has a greater concern than you do. And it's your job as the man to ensure that she feels protected. Are you strong? Are you fit? Do you have situational awareness? Are you carrying a firearm? Do you train with that firearm? Are you looking and figuring out how you can keep your family and her safe in certain circumstances? If she has faith and confidence that you can do that, man, the sky's the limit. Alternatively, are you overweight? Are you a bit of a slob? Are you an easy target? Is your head always buried in your phone when you're in public? Are you not aware of what's going on in your surroundings? Do you not have firearms? Are you scared? I know men who are scared of firearms. That's unacceptable. I'm not saying everybody has to have a firearm. I think I would navigate towards that being the answer, but you can't be scared of the tools that are available to you to protect her and yourself. So guys, be fit. Be strong. And not to mention, don't you want to be somebody that she's proud to be on the shoulder of? Man, when she's got her arm wrapped around you or wrapped in your arm or holding your hand, don't you want her to be proud of the man that you are? That might be a secondary conversation, but guys, we can do so much better in this department. I'll be honest, the one that I struggle with the most is the emotional instability. The physical harm is not an issue. Not only am I not going to physically abuse her, but she's going to feel safe and protected physically when she's with me because I'm aware of what's going on. The financial hardship isn't something, fortunately, at this point in my life that I have to concern myself with. I make good income and I'm prudent with my financial decision-making process. And so that's not an issue. But the emotional, I think, instability is very, very difficult for men. It's challenging in a lot of ways to be a man. Not more challenging than a woman per se, but generally it's different. We have a lot of different factors and considerations and fears and responsibilities than our female counterparts. Again, just generally. So it's very demanding and it's very difficult. And unless I have my healthy outlets, working out, training, going on hunts, having other friends that I can call and talk with about these things, having a band of brothers that I can work through some of these issues with, it's going to be very less likely that I'm going to be emotionally stable. And of course, the last point is substance abuse. I mean, how many of you are abusing alcohol or abusing drugs? And what is that doing to the ability that you have to show up in a very powerful, emotional, rational, level-headed way for her? It's just impossible. So guys, when you're thinking about your relationship, and I really would encourage you to do an inventory. When you're thinking about the relationship that you have, ask yourself, is this what I want? Is this a deeply powerful, connected relationship? Does she feel safe physically with me? Does she know that she can lean on me if she has fears and doubts and worries and concerns? Does she know that I've got things taken care of financially where she's not going to have to worry about, are we going to have a roof over our head, or how am I going to pay for groceries for our kids this week? We don't want our women in that space. And I realize all of us are in different places in our lives, but we should be working towards becoming this rock, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And when you're doing that inventory with the relationship you have, a lot of guys will say, well, if she did this, if she did that, if she appreciated more, if this is this and this is that. And while I can certainly see why you would want to look into some of those things, I'd have you reflect that projection inward. Why is she not doing those things? Why is she not as open as she could be? Why does she have these doubts and these insecurities? Why is she closed off? Why doesn't she talk to you? Why does she not want to be physically intimate with you? It might have to do with the instability that you've created, even subconsciously. And there's a lot of things you can do. And the beauty of that is all within your control. And inevitably, when you work on these things, emotional stability, financial abundance, and physical prowess, of course, naturally, she's going to feel more safe, more secure, and open herself up to you physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I hope that helps you guys. We can dive deeper into each of these topics, and I will, and I do. Make sure you're following on Instagram and Facebook, both at Ryan Mickler, because I talk a lot about these things there. And then I've got some other new programs and courses that are going to be coming up here pretty quickly. One is called Divorce, Not Death. And that's going to work guys who are going through divorces, work them through what to expect and how to navigate the first 12 months of a divorce. It's not for guys who are trying to win back their marriages, although it could be helpful. It's not for guys who have been divorced for a long period of time. It's specifically for men who are going through those very early stages of divorce and how to fix that and work on that for yourself, from the financial uncertainty that comes with it to eventually at some end, maybe later dating and getting back into the dating pool, to working with her as a good co-parent, to rebuilding relationships that you have with the kids, to the financial and legal ramifications that come with divorce, all the things. So if you go to divorcenotdeath.com, you can drop your email in there and I'll notify you when that course is available. But guys, we got a lot of work to do. Our job, I think, as men who want to be good providers, protectors, and presiders for and with our women, need to focus on creating safety and security. It quite literally is the skeleton key that will open up all aspects of her to you. Again, emotional stability, financial abundance, and physical prowess. I hope that serves you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, etc., shoot me an email, ryan@orderofman.com, or connect with me on Instagram or Facebook at Ryan Mickler. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.